All right, so get ready because today we are taking a deep dive into mastering multiple perspectives.
Multiple perspectives.
Yeah, it's all about being able to handle all the different information that's thrown at us.
Oh, yeah.
From different sources like research papers and articles and lectures and somehow putting it all together.
Yeah, and making sense of it.
Yeah, and making sense of it all.
And what's really interesting is this isn't just about being good at school or anything. This is a real skill.
It's like a life skill.
Yeah, for navigating the world we live in today, where, you know, you've got all this information coming at you from every direction.
And it's coming fast, too.
It's a flood.
Exactly.
And so being able to be discerning, to be able to sift through all that and figure out what matters.
Yeah, to find the good stuff.
Right, and make sense of it all. That's what we're talking about today.
So it's like a mental filter.
It is. It's like a mental filter. It's like building a mental framework for making sense of the world.
Okay, so let's say you're doing some research for a presentation or something. You've got all these articles, you've got, different viewpoints, you've got maybe some notes you've taken.
Piles of notes.
Piles and piles of notes, exactly.
Right.
It can feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, it can feel like you're drowning in information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do we even start to build like that mental framework?
Well, it starts with two really, really fundamental skills.
Okay.
Focused reading and active listening.
Okay.
And these are more than they sound like.
More than just reading and listening.
Right. It's not just about passively taking in the information.
You're not just sitting there with your eyes glazed over.
Exactly. You have to actively engage with the material.
Okay. So focused reading, what does that mean?
So focused reading, I think a lot of us, we try to highlight every other sentence.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
Right. Or we get lost in the details.
Yeah.
But with focused reading, it's really about quickly identifying what's the author's main point.
So like their thesis statement.
Yeah. What's the core argument and what evidence are they using?
So like a detective?
Yeah, exactly. You're a detective. You're looking for the clues that reveal the structure of their argument.
So it's more about understanding how they're building their argument than memorizing every single word.
Exactly. You want to be able to see the big picture.
Like the forest for the trees.
The forest for the trees,
yeah.
Right. And you can do this by actually engaging with the text. So don't be afraid to write notes in the margins, highlight key phrases.
Underline things.
Underline things, exactly. Or even draw diagrams.
Well, that's a good idea.
Whatever helps you to make those connections.
So you're not just reading it, you're having like a conversation with the author.
Right. You're actively processing the information.
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. But what about listening? What about active listening?
So active listening, this is where things get really interesting.
Oh, boy.
So imagine you're in a lecture hall and the professor is saying things that completely contradict what you just read.
Oh, that's the worst when that happens.
So active listening is about making your notes a dialogue between the lecture and what you already know.
Oh, so you're comparing and contrasting in real time.
Yeah.
You're like mentally fact-checking.
Exactly. You're not just passively absorbing. You're actively processing and questioning and connecting it to what you already know.
That sounds tiring.
It can be, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
That's it.
Because you're building this mental web of understanding.
The web?
Yeah, where each piece of new information strengthens the overall structure.
So the more you do it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. You're training your brain to make those connections.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's like building a mental muscle.
I like that, a mental muscle.
And the stronger those muscles get, the better you'll be at making sense of complex information.
Okay, so we're building these mental muscles through focused reading and active listening, but where do we go from there?
That's where the real magic happens.
Okay, I'm ready for the magic.
That's where we get to synthesis.
Synthesis.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that word. Sounds very impressive.
It's like taking all these ingredients, all this information you've gathered, and blending them together into something new and amazing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this synthesis superpower.
All right, well, let's break it down.
All right, let's do it.
So with synthesis, we're taking those notes from reading our notes from the lecture, all those scribbles, and we're going to blend them together.
Okay, so like we're making a smoothie.
Kind of, but a really brainy smoothie.
A knowledge smoothie.
Yeah, exactly, a knowledge smoothie. So
yeah,
where do we start?
Yeah, where do we begin with this recipe?
Well, first you got to look for the main ingredients.
Okay.
What are the key points where those sources agree and disagree?
So like comparing and contrasting again.
Right, but we're going deeper now.
Super.
Yeah, we want to understand not just what the differences are, but why.
Oh, so like, is it because they have different evidence or different interpretations or maybe even some hidden biases?
Exactly.
So we're like detectives again, but this time we're investigating ideas.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking for those clues that reveal the underlying patterns and motivations.
Okay, I like that. And as we're doing this, are we also looking for like overarching themes or maybe gaps in the information?
Absolutely, because that can point us towards areas where more research is needed.
So we're not just summarizing the information, we're actively creating new understanding.
Right, we're building a mental map of the intellectual landscape.
Ooh, I like that, a mental map.
Yeah, and it's a map that's constantly evolving as we encounter new information.
So we're not just like travelers, we're also cartographers.
We're mapping out the terrain of knowledge.
That's pretty cool, but I'm guessing there are some pitfalls we should avoid.
Oh yeah, definitely. One of the biggest ones is getting bogged down in the details.
Oh yeah, I could see how that would happen.
It's easy to get lost in the weeds and lose sight of the big picture,
And what's another pitfall?
letting our own opinions take over.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, we have to remember that this is about presenting an objective view of how the sources relate, not about pushing our own agenda.
So check your ego at the door.
Exactly. Let the information speak for itself.
Okay, good advice.
Hmm.
So are there any like tools or techniques that can help us with this synthesis process?
Yeah, actually, there's a really useful one called mapping.
Mapping, like with actual maps?
Not quite, but it involves creating a visual representation of the relationships between different pieces of information.
Oh, okay, so like a mind map or something.
It could be a mind map, or you could use like a flowchart or a Venn diagram, or even just a list with arrows connecting related ideas.
So it's about taking those abstract ideas and giving them a concrete form.
Exactly, you're externalizing your thinking.
Oh, I like it's like you're taking it out of your brain and putting it on paper.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that can really help you to see the connections and the contradictions more clearly.
And the cool thing is, you can customize it to your own learning style.
Right, you can use colors and shapes and symbols, whatever helps you to make sense of the information.
Okay, so we've analyzed the information, we've synthesized it, we've made our mental maps now. How do we communicate all of this effectively?
That's where the art of synthesis writing comes in.
Oh, so we're talking about actually putting it into words.
Exactly, and the key here is clarity.
So no rambling or meandering.
Nope, we got to be concise and organized.
Get straight to the point.
Right, remember, we're not just summarizing, we're building an argument based on the evidence we've gathered.
So how do we avoid just like regurgitating information?
Well, that's where those transition words and phrases come in handy.
Ah, like however and similarly and in contrast.
Exactly. Those are the signposts that guide your reader through your analysis, showing them how the different pieces fit together.
They're like the glue that holds it all together.
They are. And remember, objectivity is key.
So no personal opinions or biases.
Right. We're presenting a balanced view of the sources, not advocating for one side or the other.
But how do we balance that objectivity with our own unique insights?
That's the real art of synthesis, weaving your own understanding into the analysis without letting it overshadow the evidence.
So it's like a delicate dance.
It is. You're walking a tightrope between objectivity and insight.
And how do we make sure that our writing is not just informative, but also engaging?
Think of it like you're telling a story.
A story.
Yeah, the sources are your characters, the connections you've made are the plot, and you're the narrator guiding the reader through this intellectual adventure.
So we're not just presenting information, we're creating an experience.
Exactly. We want our readers to feel like they're discovering something new alongside us.
I like that a lot. But, you know, sometimes even with the best intentions, those mountains of information can feel really overwhelming.
Oh yeah, information overload is a real thing.
It is, and it can be paralyzing.
Yeah, and sometimes the best thing you can do is just step away from it for a while.
Like a mental break.
Exactly. Go for a walk, listen to music, do something completely unrelated to clear your head.
Hit the reset button.
Right. And when you come back, try approaching the material from a different angle.
So like if you were focused on the details, try zooming out and looking at the big picture.
Exactly. Or if you're struggling with a particular concept, try explaining it to someone else.
Oh yeah, sometimes just talking out loud can help you to understand it better.
It can. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Like from a professor or a tutor or even a friend.
Right. There's no shame in admitting that you need assistance.
Sometimes a fresh perspective can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And remember, mastering these skills takes time and practice.
So don't get discouraged if you don't see results overnight.
Yeah, be patient with yourself and keep practicing.
Keep flexing those mental muscles.
Exactly. And the more you use them, the stronger they'll get.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I'm starting to see the world in a whole new way.
That's the power of synthesis. It allows you to make connections that you might never have seen before.
And those connections can lead to some pretty amazing insights.
They can change the way you think about everything.
Like a brain reboot.
Yeah, exactly. And then When you're ready to dive back in, try a new approach.
A new approach. Like, what do you mean?
Well, like maybe instead of focusing on all the tiny details,
Yeah.
try to look at the big picture.
Zoom out a little bit.
Exactly. Or if you're really struggling with a certain concept,
Uh-huh.
try explaining it to somebody else.
Like, talk it out.
Yeah, sometimes just saying it out loud can help you understand it better.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like you have to teach it to really get it.
Right, and don't be afraid to, ask for help.
Yeah, there's no shame in that.
No, not at all. Like, if you're really stuck, reach out to a professor or a tutor or even a classmate.
2 heads are better than one.
Exactly. And remember, mastering these skills, it takes time.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's a process.
It's like learning a new language or an instrument.
Yeah, it takes practice.
Lots of practice.
But the more you practice those skills, the more natural they'll become.
So focused reading, active listening, and all that synthesis stuff.
Exactly. You'll start to see those connections without even thinking about it.
And that's when it becomes really powerful.
It is. It's like you're building this amazing mental toolbox.
A toolbox for understanding the world.
Yeah, and the best part is these tools, you can use them anywhere.
Like in any situation.
Yeah, whether you're reading a research paper or watching the news or having a conversation with a friend.
These skills, they come in handy everywhere.
They do. They really help you to navigate the world in a more thoughtful and informed way.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
Be an active participant in your own learning.
Don't just sit there and absorb.
Engage, question, connect, create.
Make it your own.
Exactly. That's the key to mastering multiple perspectives.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. So to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep synthesizing.
The world needs your insights.
Until next time, happy diving.